Thanks for watching The Personal History of Games. I'm your host, Eric Canius, and this week I had the utmost pleasure of chatting with Luiza Tanaka. She took a break from creating mind-blowing environments at Singularity 6 to chat with me about moving, dad hobbies, and using goals as focus points while we play World of Warcraft. Here's that conversation.
Wow, those new character models for WoW. Like she has a lot of kind of red blush going
I
across
gave
her
her like
cheeks.
the what do you call them? The dots.
Yeah, freckles.
Freckles. Yes, the face freckles. And there's some wrinkles in
It's
those,
very
but
in style right now.
yes, she's very chic. But they have not updated this loading screen to be more than 4x3.
I know, it's just so funny because this game has been ongoing for so many years, and some things they have updated and then some things they've kept, and it's interesting balance.
Yeah, it's interesting choices they're making between updating things and not. But we'll load in here and see what you see. When was the last time you played World of Warcraft?
I think the last time I played was about a year ago.
Okay.
I had a friend who used to work at Blizzard, and they hooked me up with some free game time. But I ended up mainly playing a little bit of Classic. Because I started playing World of Warcraft around Wrath of Lich King. So I had never really experienced the difficulty that so many Classic players say, oh my god, you don't understand how long it took you to get to level 60. You couldn't fight more than one, maybe two mobs at once. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it was difficult for sure. I think I got to level 20, and I don't even know how many hours it was, but I was like, I don't think I can sink in any more hours.
Yeah, no, I played it from the beta through the first year. I didn't get any expansions, so I played just Classic. And yeah, all I remember is grinding levels by mining stuff. So I played solo, so I would just run around the Barrens mining, and that was it. And it would take hours, and I would do it for hours, and that was all I'd do, and I wouldn't get anywhere.
Did you play Horde?
Yes. Yeah, I played a Tauren, was my main. There's my character.
Yeah, I noticed it took just a smidge of time for her to load in. I was like, he's playing first person.
No, this is always weird.
Yeah, it feels a little too weird to play like that.
Were you always Horde or Alliance?
I was pretty much exclusively Alliance. I think I briefly played Horde. I switched guild a bit just to try out doing a little bit more raiding, because there were some of my friends who switched over to Horde for that. But after 2 weeks, I started kind of getting homesick of my other guild, so I just kind of went back, and they were mad at me. They were like, "How dare you betray us like that?"
Were you in a hardcore guild that doing raids and stuff?
No, I joined a fairly casual guild. A lot of us were it was a very large demographic in terms of age range. And most of us were playing the game casually. I think probably in the guild I was the one most interested in raiding, and I kept trying to get my guild to raid with me. And for a while we were actually doing pretty decent at it. But I would say some people, of course, they were just older folks, and they had more responsibilities in their normal life, so they couldn't grind every day for the best gear, do the dailies, try and get those badges. Back in after Lich King, you had to grind a lot of badges.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That sounds like a better guild than the ones I've heard of, or the ones my brother was in, because he played quite hardcore. Yes, I never really got into all that. Did you enjoy the social aspect of World of Warcraft? What was the draw that kept you playing?
Yeah, so I could go into a little bit of why I started playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And I hope it's not gonna sound a little too monologue-y, but World of Warcraft has a lot of meaning to me, and it helped me decide that I wanted to pursue a career in video games. And so for me, it was a very kind of pivotal moment in my life. but it was also like not such a good time in my life.
Hmm.
So just a bit of a backstory: like I grew up moving around a lot. I was born in Japan, and at age 5, I moved to Germany, and then 7 to Brazil.
Whoa.
When I was 11, I moved back to Japan, and then at 15, I moved to the United States. So it was a lot of moving around, and I feel very privileged and extremely grateful, for the life I was able to have growing up, because I got to experience so much different like culture and learn different languages, and overall, like it was very like it opened up my mind to a lot of new experiences and ways of thinking that I probably wouldn't have had if I had just grown up in one place. But it was also like stressful, and as an only child, like I only really had my parents to kind of like rely on when, like, I don't know, I would like start feeling homesick or something like that.
Yeah.
So when I was moving from the second time I was living in Japan to the United States, I was already a little bit like an older teenager, and I had a good friend of mine who was like, "Hey, I know you're moving to the United States," because that was like 2 months before I was about to leave Japan. But I really wanted like us to try and like keep hanging out and spend time together. And there's this game that my brother is playing. It's called World of Warcraft, and it seems really cool. Like I think we could play together and have lots of fun that way. So one day I went over to her house, and we played on her brother's computer, and I was like, "Wow, yeah, this game is pretty neat." So once I moved to the States, even though we have like a huge time difference, we would try like either in the morning or late at night to like play a little bit together, and it really helped me with, I guess, like the homesickness I know that
Yeah.
I was feeling. But I felt like United States from Japan was a big culture shock. I
I could see that.
Yeah, I went from being able to like walk to my school and take a subway to go anywhere I wanted to hang out with my friends after class, to like, oh, you need a car in this country to go, just about anywhere. And I was having like struggling a little bit with like the cultural barrier. Thankfully, I already did speak fairly fluent English, but I moved to the Midwest.
Okay. I was going to ask where in the US you moved.
Yeah, so we moved to Michigan, and I'd say like I wouldn't really say that like Michigan has like any particular strong accent or anything, but it's
Mhm.
very fast, and it was so much faster than I was used to.
Right.
So I guess just in general, like I felt like I was really struggling. Unfortunately, like the first 4 years that I was living in the States, which were high school.
Oh, yeah.
So I really used World of Warcraft as a way for me to like kind of cope with it, because like in a little bit of a sad way, like when I felt like things weren't going right, in my day to day, I felt like I could retreat into World of Warcraft, as
Mhm.
a safe space.
Yeah. That's what games are used for a lot of times, escapism and that sort of thing, but also using a multiplayer game as connection is just
Hmm.
adding that benefit for something, especially something like this where, I don't know, I'm very casually playing while you're chatting, and it works well for that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I made a lot of good friends in the guild that I ended up joining. Unfortunately, like after I think 6 months, my friend from Japan like kind of stopped playing the game,
Oh.
which was a bit unfortunate. But I understand. But I have a friend that still to this day I talk to her like, I don't know, every other day. I would say she lives in Canada, and like I keep telling her one day I'm gonna come and visit you. But so I'm really thankful for like a lot of relationships that I was able to make in World of Warcraft.
Cool. Yeah, that's very cool to hear. It's nice to hear these stories. Thank you for sharing that. And don't worry about monologuing. That's what this whole show's about.
Good to hear. Yeah.
Was there games before this that you played, or what was your gaming history before World of Warcraft?
Right. So I'd say like my parents, they never discouraged me from playing games, but they also never like actively encourage my gaming habits. I would say they were right in the middle, but I'd say like the first time like I saw video games, my dad, he got like a bootleg copy of Doom from work, and he was just
Ooh.
playing it at home one day. I think I was like 5. But he just let me like sit next to him and watch him play Doom, and I was like, oh my god, this is so cool. Even though like maybe it's a little too violent for a 5-year-old, but like they didn't seem to care. And once I got a little bit older and like developing just a little bit like more motor control,
Yeah.
like I was really into like Tomb Raider.
Nice.
And at the time, like, the graphics for Tomb Raider was like, oh yeah, it's so cool. That tiger like has so many like bones in the tail. So like it's like curving and moving around as it's like animating. And at the time you would like, oh yeah, this is great. But nowadays it's like, wow, like it's so the face of the tiger is a cube.
That's yes, the leaps that a child's mind or a young mind can do to make this look amazing. I guess relative to other things at the time, that game did look cool. It also played very badly. From what I remember, it was like so difficult to play.
Oh yeah, it required a lot of precision. Like if you wanted to jump from one ledge to another, like you needed to hit precisely like where the hand was with the edge of the ledge.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I think to this day, if I were to play again today, I would probably like struggle because it's like you gotta like aim so well. It's a tough platformer, I guess.
It is. It is. It was a unique game for the time.
And then I would say because in Germany it's very customary when kids first enter school that they receive this big ornate cone of cardboard. That's filled with like gifts,
Oh.
and usually it has like things like pencils and notebooks and things to like help the kid with starting school. But it can also have like candies and toys.
Mhm.
And I was very lucky. I got a Game Boy Color.
What?
And I was so excited.
What?
Yeah. And I was so happy because like now I could play games like in my bedroom. I didn't need to
Yeah.
like try and fight my dad for the computer. But there was a bit of an issue, unfortunately. I got Pokemon Yellow, which I was like super happy. And my dad was like, oh yeah, the guy at the store, he said like this is the most popular game right now. And I was like, yeah, cool, awesome. But I had just moved to Germany and I couldn't read German.
Oh no.
So after like half hour of trying to play the game, I just couldn't navigate the menu. I didn't really know what was going on. So I asked my dad, I'm sorry, can you return this game and get me something else, please?
Sorry, where were we?
I think it was me returning Pokemon Yellow because I couldn't read.
You couldn't read German. Were you were
But actually, I couldn't read anything at that point. I think I was 6 years old, and yeah, so I couldn't really read Japanese either. Like I was just like just learning the alphabet. I guess you could say the Roman alphabet.
Yes. If you don't mind talking about the moving around and stuff, I don't know a lot of people that move around. I lived in this city of 200,000 or 300,000 people for my entire life. So do you know German? Do you know? Sorry, I forget what they speak in Brazil. Portuguese.
Yeah. So when I was raised in Japan, my dad is Japanese, but he was born in Brazil. So both of my parents are Brazilian. And when I was born in Japan, they taught me both Portuguese, and of course I learned Japanese by going to like preschool and stuff. And I felt like I was fairly fluent at both languages. But as I started like moving around, we kind of kept the Portuguese, in our household. But like the Japanese kind of took a back seat a little bit. And once I started attending school in Germany, I would say that for the time, and especially for the age group, you being a kid, I spoke fluent German. But once I moved away from Germany, it's been lost, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
And then once I moved to Brazil, I just kind of became more fluent in Portuguese. Once I moved back to Japan, I was able to like kind of regain some of my Japanese skills, but I would still argue that I'm not fluent in Japanese. Like I can speak with my grandma and just like, I don't know, just have a conversation with her, but it's like very kind of low level conversation types that I would have with her. Be like, oh, hey grandma, I really enjoy, this dish you made. It kind of like stays at that level. It's not like I can't talk politics with her or something like that. Yeah, and then I learned English when I was in Japan for the second time because my parents enrolled me in an international school. But I ended up learning more British English because most of my teachers were either from the UK or Australian.
Right.
So once I moved to the States, it was funny because like some terminology was like a little bit different, especially for math class, because I kept calling it the gradient for like algebra and stuff like that. And all the other kids like, I don't know what you're talking about, gradient. And then the teacher would be like, oh, she means the rise over the run, you know.
What? It is gradient. I guess I learned British too in Canada.
Yeah, yeah. I I thought it was funny, like that some what I would think would be more like internationally accepted terms for like using in school were still like sometimes different here, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's America. I could see that. They made up all their own stuff just to be unique.
Oh my god, yeah. Like the first year, I struggled so much. Like, what is pounds and ounces, and what is a quart, a
Yep.
mile? Because a mile is abbreviated as MI, so I kept thinking it was like minutes.
Yep.
So it'd be like using GPS and be like, oh, like 14 minutes until my arrival, but it's like 14 miles.
Well, it depends on how fast you're going, I guess.
I am a little guilty of being a bit of a fast driver.
Oh no. Oh, it's all right. As long as you're safe. I can't say I'm any different.
People joke around. It's like, you know, whenever Luiza gets on the steering wheel, like for some reason, cops disappear from the road, and I can go, you know, a little bit over the speed limit and not risk having a cop pull over because for some reason they just disappear when I sit in the driver's seat.
Well, that's nice. That's a nice lucky bonus to have.
Yeah, I think every person has like one useless superpower, and that one is mine.
Yes.
I think I've gotten a little slower over time just because it's like, you know, let me not be reckless. Just because like becoming more of an adult and it's like, oh, I pay for my own car insurance.
Yes. Yep. As you grow older, you learn, hey, maybe it's not worth it to speed around for no reason.
Yeah, for sure.
But sometimes it's just fun. As long as you're safe, I'm going to keep saying that.
Any listener, please do not speed. I don't recommend it. I do it, but I'm dumb.
Yes, do not break the law. But if you're having fun and you're being safe and no one's around,
I do drive a Honda Fit, so that's like one of the last cars you would think that would be speeding, right? Because it's so small.
true. There you go. That's your cover. Mm-hmm. To get back on topic a little bit, you had mentioned your dad playing Doom and stuff. Was he a big gamer?
I wouldn't say he is. I think it was just like that time period where he was like for, well, I don't know, 5 years he was quite into games. But I think it kind of like overtook his hobby for him. And he started like kind of not playing as many games. And at some point I didn't have to fight him for the computer anymore. It was like fairly easy for me to get it to play games on. And I think as I got older, I started getting into a lot more of like the kind of management style games like SimCity and The Sims. Like, yeah, I just had so much fun playing those games, and in a way they kind of like helped you, I don't know, maybe have at least SimCity a bit more of a motivation to like apply maths into, you know, something fun.
Yeah, it uses your critical thinking.
Yeah.
That's fun. Do you remember? Okay, whenever I think of parents playing games, they're always like glasses on the end of their nose and like using one finger. Was he at least adept at playing? Do you remember?
I feel like he was probably like about average. I remember like he would make a lot of save files for Tomb Raider when I would like sit next to him and watch him play it. And there was this one level for Tomb Raider 2 that he was like constantly like stuck on. I think it was like Tibet, and he saved his last save file. He had like barely any ammo, and it was right at like a bottleneck where as soon as you walked through the door, like 20 bad guys would show up, and he just literally didn't have enough ammo. I think how we ended up solving, because like that was still in an era where you would go to like a bookstore and buy like a tutorial book on how to beat
Right.
certain games, and we kept reading that section, but it didn't say very much. I think we ended up just like using health packs and running through the bottleneck. I think that was the only way we were able to beat that.
That's funny. Yes, I always enjoy stories like that. So after you settled down, I guess, did you ever settle down after a time?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of feel more settled down with my life right now, even though it's kind of funny because I just accepted a new job that's at some point going to require me to move to LA. I live in Georgia right now, but I feel like maybe mentally it's the most comfortable I felt with my environment for a while. So it's been nice, and yeah, now I'd say like I play all sorts of games. Not that many PC games, gotta be honest. Though I think mainly console. I have a Switch and a PlayStation 4. I'm still like every day I look on like websites trying to get a PS5,
Looking
but
for a PS5, yeah.
they're sold out everywhere, and it makes me so sad. But at some point I'll get one.
Yeah, eventually, there's no rush. It'll happen. I believe.
I just don't want to try and risk playing Cyberpunk on the PS4 because I have a friend
Ooh.
who did that, and he said, "Yeah, it crashes quite a bit." So I'm like, I think I'm gonna wait just until
Yeah,
I can get the PS5.
if you have the patience, I would wait. I've heard many things.
Have you played it?
Yeah, I'm playing on PC even, and I would still wait quite a bit.
I hear it's still like the smoothest platform to be playing on.
Oh, definitely. It's not like I'm not having frame rate issues or graphics issues. It's everything else. So I assume they'll fix that. So by the time you get the PS5, everything should be fine and dandy.
Yeah, I think so. I have faith in them.
What are you playing on the Switch or on the consoles?
So I've been playing, of course, a lot of Animal Crossing since it came out. I
Of
have
course.
like 250 some hours in it. For
Whoa.
Christmas, I got like a amiibo card for this one villager called Goldie. And it's funny because like I used to have when I lived in Brazil a golden retriever, so it made me so happy to get that amiibo because
Aw.
it's like, oh, it's my dog. A little sad, but like I only had that dog for 2 years because that's when we moved back to Japan. And wow, to move a dog to other countries is an extremely difficult process,
Yep.
and exceptionally so for Japan because Japan is a rabies-free country.
Yep.
So, like, we basically weren't able to take her, and I'm like, no, my
Aw.
dog.
Yeah, I'm saying yep knowingly because we're in the process of moving to Scotland, and the
Oh,
UK has the same anti-rabies thing, so you can't
yeah.
fly directly in with the dog, or you can't fly with the dog in the cabin. Luckily, we have a small dog, so we're
Hmm.
flying to Amsterdam and then taking a boat to the UK because we
Oh,
can do that.
wow. That's
Yeah,
really interesting.
but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about with how difficult it is to move a dog because
Yeah, I
we're
know.
currently dealing with that. So I had to
You'd
get
think
that
it's
vent
easy
out.
because it's like, humans have had dogs domesticated for so many years now, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yep.
I guess also on the PS5 or sorry PS4, I've been playing a lot of Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is a game that came
Ah,
out I think in November. I like the Yakuza series a lot. It's just such a silly like RPG series, I would say.
yes.
And for me, like especially because the newest Yakuza game is in the city of Yokohama, and that's where I'm from.
Oh,
So walking around the city kind of makes me feel like I'm at home. And I don't know, it's just nice, especially because like we can't, at least I can't go anywhere, unfortunately with the pandemic.
yes. Well, that's nice. Did they do anything to represent like the city exactly, or is it just like they call it Yokohama and it has some like landmarks or something?
It's kind of similar in the way that like GTA is similar to LA.
Right. Okay.
Like it has some landmarks, some streets are basically the same as in the real world, but like the scale is off and some neighborhoods are like cut out. But that's, I think it's good enough.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Take what you can get.
Yeah.
That's an exciting feeling to have a game take place where you lived or were from, and It's neat. I can't say I've experienced that, but when Flight Simulator came out and they had the entire world, I of course flew to my city and then like drove a plane on the streets to see all the stuff.
Were you able to see your house?
Yes, it didn't look like my house, obviously, but I was able to see, like they had every street. So I went down the street where I'm currently living and went down the past streets where I used to live and saw how updated it was because our city's growing pretty quickly. I was able to see a bunch of updates that it was already there, and it's super neat. And then like flying to the city where my dad lives, like half hour away, and having all these small towns be represented is fun. I guess, well, being in Canada, the other place where I'm from Regina, Saskatchewan, where the other place where Regina was represented was in a hockey game in NHL.
Oh, wow.
You could play as the minor leagues, and Canada has a minor league, and one of the minor leagues has a team in our city, and so our hockey rink was represented there, and that was also a big deal.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, I'm glad you were able to fly through, the streets of your town in the game. I wanted to pick up the game, but not for myself, for my dad actually, because like I also remember him playing a lot of like flight simulators when I was a kid,
Right.
and I just thought he would like love the idea of like a more realistic, flight simulator. I was even like thinking of getting him the more inexpensive new version of the Xbox, so just so he could play that game.
Mhm.
But he was like, "Nah, I don't want video games anymore," and it makes me worry because like I feel like he doesn't have that many hobbies nowadays. So we
Yeah.
got him like a beer home brewing kit in hopes of like, here's like maybe a new hobby you could develop. And my mom seemed so relieved when we got her that because she's like, your dad needs a hobby so bad because like he pesters me way too much throughout the day. She developed a really good, healthy hobby over, I guess, the quarantine, bread making. Like,
Ooh,
she's been
yes.
making so many breads and like professional quality bread. I'm like so impressed. So
Damn.
I guess he just pesters my mom a lot. It's like, are you sure that bread is moist enough? Are you sure the yeast is growing accordingly? And she's like, let me be.
Wow, that is wild dad energy. Of just like, are you doing that right? Just checking in
Oh,
all the time.
he is such like your standard typical dad in many ways.
I love it. That's great. Well, why doesn't he make bread if he's going to be so judgy about it?
I know, like he has so many opinions about like whenever someone's making anything in the household, he like just watches over them and like gives it 2 cents. And it's like, you've never made this before. Like what are you telling me to do?
I love it.
Yeah.
Makes me happy to hear that there's still dads like that out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like, because I drove to my parents' house to spend Christmas over there, and like he's of course like, oh, your car, I need to check if you've been taking proper
Yep.
care of your car.
Of course. That's like one of the conversations me and my dad is. How's your car doing? Doing good.
Yeah, I think it kind of makes even more sense because one of the reasons why we moved around so much from country to country is because my dad is in the auto industry, so
Ah.
he has a lot of opinions about cars. He's mainly like his specialty is like stability software, so sometimes it's
Cool.
pretty useful.
Yeah, I mean, that could be handy.
Yeah.
Could come in handy when he's not being nosy. That's delightful. But it also makes sense why you moved to Michigan. I should have
Yes,
known.
100%. Yeah, it was funny because like when I first moved to the States, people were like, "Oh, you moved around so much. Is it because of the army?" And I'm like, "Army? I'm not sure what you mean." Because like I'd say other countries don't have that much of like a military presence. Yeah,
Mhm.
or you don't know if like family members or friends who have like been in it. Whereas here in the United States, like at least a lot of people have been in there for some time and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's pretty a normal story to tell about American culture is if you're an army brat, you're moving around the states because you're going to different bases. That's the
Yeah.
first thought that crossed my mind when I saw the survey filled out. But that's because Canadian culture has been overtaken by American culture.
Hey, I still feel like Canada is just a better America in many ways.
It's true. I can't disagree.
Hopefully one day we'll get there.
Yeah, just come visit. It's a nice place. Visit your friend.
Yeah, I need to.
Hey folks, if you're enjoying this podcast, Bean Media has another podcast I think you'll love. It's called Do We Like, and I co-host it along with my partner Robin. Robin, do you want to explain the show?
Thanks, Eric. Hi, I'm Robin, co-host of Do We Like, a podcast where Eric and I debate common people, places, and things to decide if we like them or need to leave them. Join us each week as we debate controversial topics like pickles, underwear, bubble tea, and Queen Elizabeth I. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, or come find us at dowelike.com.
Dude, that quest is such a pain in the butt because, I think at some point you have to go in the mine to get the more higher level mobs, and I don't know, you can get stuck sometimes because they might respawn behind you, and then they just start swarming you.
Yeah, what was your favorite place to go in this game?
Oh my gosh, I had so many zones, so I think part of me of how much I loved exploring World of Warcraft kind of led me to the direction of becoming an environment artist. But I love flying around just through classic WoW. In Cataclysm, you could start flying in the classic world, and I think I really like Daenerys, even though it's kind of a more deserty, open area that doesn't have a lot going on. But the atmosphere in that zone felt very mysterious. I also really liked Felwood, and it's a bit of an interesting choice to say that because it's a zone where everything's corrupted and green and kind of dying. But I really like that it had a very trench kind of layout. It's this valley, and while you're questing in it, you can either move up or down. And if you aggro some mobs, you can't really just keep running away from them because it's just one straight line. So those were some zones that I really enjoyed spending a lot of time in. And then in Cataclysm, one of people's least favorite maps were the underwater maps. I think Bashir. I love those zones. I'm also a scuba diver, and for me, I thought those zones were amazing because there's so much directionality. You could swim up and down, side to side, and zones previously to that didn't really have that verticality. But people hated it because it's questing was more difficult and more slow because you had mobs coming from every axis,
Cool.
But I love that zone, even though maybe some of my friends out leveled me just because I was spending so much time.
That's all right, as long as you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, and I don't know, the fish and the foliage and seeing all the algae and the bioluminescence. That really I don't know, made me feel so much like I was there.
That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know there were underwater zones. Like I said, I played before the first expansion. No, I definitely played one or two of the expansions. But anyways, I did not get to the flying mounts or any of that sort of stuff. That is far too advanced for me. But that sounds very cool.
You played mainly vanilla?
Yeah, I played they didn't put out the first expansion for a year, I think. I played for that first year, and it was just running around the Barrens, seeing the Barrens chat as per its reputation.
Yeah.
And then being stuck at level 20 to 30, doing the same thing over and over because I wouldn't group with anyone and I wouldn't do raids. I don't know. I was more of a solo player, so playing this game didn't really make a lot of sense. My brother was getting way further than me, so I'd watch him sometimes, or at least check in on his character, getting to level 60.
It's funny you say that you didn't want to grow up and you kind of want to play the game by yourself. Because when I first started playing World of Warcraft, I was like, oh my gosh, these are people online on the internet, and they're talking to me sometimes. Oh, this is I can't handle it. I'm too nervous. I actually looked if there was some way for me to play the game offline until my friend could hop online with me. But there was no, settings option that play offline.
Yeah.
I feel up until some point in college, I was a very closed-in person, and playing this game kind of made me nervous at points because it's oh my gosh, there's so many people to interact with.
Right.
But I think something that also helped was well, if I have an actual goal where it's hey, I would like to talk to this person because they can craft me this item, keep it a bit more objective,
Mhm.
I guess I could handle, the pressure or something.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Getting into conversations with a goal in mind, then you don't have to worry about the small talk and like saying something weird. I feel ya.
It's like I can only talk to my guildmates. I don't know if I trust all these strangers.
Hey, it's a fair thought to have, especially in online games.
Yeah, I think it was also like me being very nervous at the time with like my level of English, because I think it took me 2 years after arriving in the United States to feel like, oh yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with like the way I speak.
Yeah. Jeez, that's still pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend, or I had a friend in high school who was teaching himself languages, and all that stuff is very something I could not understand.
Yeah, I did a research paper in college. If there's like a different way that the brain is wired if you grow up as a bilingual individual versus just with one language, and apparently the research shows that like over time, being bilingual can really help you. Especially once you become older and could develop Alzheimer's, because then you'll have like a backup, like a neural path for you to like kind of remember things essentially. So let's say, I think
Right.
of the word red and apple in English, but in Portuguese it would be vermelho and maçã. But let's say one day I start to forget, those words in Portuguese, while I still have my neural connection in English to hopefully allow me to like keep that in mind.
Yeah. No, totally. That reminds me of a teacher I had in university. She learned sign language to work with people that were hard of hearing or deaf. And at one point, like something happened in her brain where she could not speak vocally.
Oh,
She
no.
just like could not figure it out. Like the words were not coming, but she could still sign. And so she was able to sign to, and luckily they had a paramedic who could understand sign language, and she was able to sign what was happening. So that's exactly what you're talking about, of having another route to go about if something happens.
Wow, that is so amazing to hear, though. Especially because I know sign language is like it's like a little bit different the way of thinking, but like wow,
Yeah.
that is really awesome.
No, it's very cool to hear. I'm like, okay, I should probably get on this learning thing.
I would love to learn sign language one day.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, all that learning just seems good. I'm not a great learner. I was never great in school, so it's always been a point of, not contention, but a point of something that I wish I was better at, and I just need to make more of an effort. Hot take. This is what if I were to learn another language, what do you suggest?
Oh man, it's funny because like I feel like every language has the ways it's easy and difficult. I personally think like speaking Japanese can be really easy because pronouncing Japanese is so formulaic. Like it's a very Tanaka, like my last name. Like you pronounce ta in Japanese every time the same in every single word. So in that way, like I see Japanese as being a very like easy language, but it's extremely hard to write and read. It has 8,000 characters.
Wow.
I think I know at best 100, and
What?
that still like isn't good enough.
And you lived there twice.
Yeah. English in a way is like both easy and hard,
I've heard, yes.
because English is not very consistent in a way, because it has a lot of like
Yes.
Latin and like French in it.
Yes, there's a lot of, it got bastardized by a lot of other languages coming in and taking over England and then adding their own words. There's a lot of French words in there.
Yeah, but then its base is like Germanic.
Yes.
It was funny when I was learning English because like I had already learned German and Portuguese at that point, and it's like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of both in there, but then I didn't know when to sort between the two.
Yeah.
And then like Latin-based languages, like let's say Portuguese, Spanish, or French, I think those can be the most consistent languages, but then there's a lot of like, oh yeah, this word has a pronoun, like
Yeah.
umbrella is a feminine word versus I don't know, bread could be a masculine word, and it's like, wait, what? Words have genders?
Yes, we learned French in school in Canada, or at least you have to take a French class. I can't say I learned much, but so yeah, learning like the gendered words. I'm like, well, this is complicated.
Yeah. I took French too. I took it in middle school and in high school, so for a total of 7 years. I wouldn't say I'm like fluent at it at all. It's just more of like I can read some of it, I feel like.
Yes.
But it's definitely like a very interesting language, and I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, if I'm leaning towards one, just like utilitarian wise, it would be French, because in Canada that's our second language, or official second language is French. So it'd have some uses, and it would get you some more money in certain jobs. That'd be handy.
Yeah, it's funny because my friend from World of Warcraft that I still talk to every other day, she's from Montreal. And for a while in high school, when like my French homework would get a little too difficult, I'd be like, hey, can you proofread this for me, please?
Perfect.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that's very handy to have. Another benefit to playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I know. Meet
Video
so many
games
people.
helped you with school. Put that on the box.
It really did, though. As cheesy as it sounds, I think I learned a lot of English with WoW. But then sometimes like some of the words that like in quests will be like a little bit more of like old-timey English.
Yeah.
And then I would use that on like a school paper, and they'd be like, interesting choice of vocabulary, Luiza. It's not wrong, but like not very common.
You're so fancy.
Yeah.
The way you wrote this paper is very fancy. Bonus points.
Yeah. or super cheesy, you know?
Yes. Well, that's fun. All right. So with the personal history of games, we're seeing if there's a thread with your history with games to where you are today. And that is as an environment artist with Singularity 6. How did you get into doing environmental art?
Yeah, so I feel like always in my life, one of my like hobbies that I had was like just spending time making art. Like ever since I was like really young, it was like a big interest of mine. Even like at age 7, I started taking like oil painting classes. And I think with me like moving around so much, like it was nice to have like this one consistent hobby that I could always like kind of enjoy regardless of where I lived, you know? And I never really considered like doing something in games until I was in high school. So it was a bit, maybe a little bit of a later realization, because a lot of my coworkers, you know, I'll ask them about it, and some of them seem to have known, oh yeah, no, I wanted to make video games since I was like a younger kid. And it's like, oh, cool, interesting. But I feel like I'd always also been like really technologically adept. So at some point kind of clicked to me when I was in high school. And unfortunately, I was like not in a great headspace in high school. I was really thinking about, okay, I need to like start deciding what to do, what I'm going to study in college, you know, and then pursue as a career. And because of how I felt like so down, I really wanted to try and make sure like whatever choice I would choose for my future, that it would be something that would bring me joy every day, you know, because I felt like I'm not sure if I can like have a job that 9 to 5 that I don't feel passionate about.
Exactly.
Because in high school, I just felt like every day was such a struggle, and it realized to me one day playing World of Warcraft, like, you know, I sink so many hours into this game. And there's obviously artists that have worked on this game to create the beautiful art of World of Warcraft. And especially for the time, I felt like it really made me feel like in this environment where I could like escape the world. And it was like, wow, now I'm suddenly like in the mountains in the middle of the snow with all these furlogs, I don't know, the creatures that would like live in winter, spring.
Yeah.
And it would take me to a different headspace. And I just thought, like, what if I could do something where, you know, I could also maybe for other people who want to, you know, escape, bring them that kind of like, you know, world for them. And then realized to me, like, oh, you know, if I go into games, I could probably do that. Yeah. And me being already like really passionate about art. It just seemed to click in one day. I was like, wow, I could actually take the skill that I already have, but then just kind of like focus it towards a product like video games. And I think once I realized that, it really helped me so much mentally, because it gave me this goal that I could like tangibly see, what the outcome would be, if I was able to like be successful at it. And once I joined college, it helped me so much, for me to have like this constant like dream that like I'd like to one day make a beautiful world that people can like spend time in, enjoying themselves and escape their daily troubles. And I really like spent those 4 years in college like working super hard because I wanted that dream to come true so badly. And I was super happy, that once I did graduate from college, I was very fortunate to be able to have a very like easy time to, break into the industry, which is not the norm. It Getting into games is very difficult, and a lot of my friends like they took maybe 2 years after college, to like still work on their portfolio to be able to break into games.
Right.
I feel super lucky that like I was kind of like found basically through ArtStation, which is like what the industry uses to like showcase work. And yeah, I guess I feel really grateful for World of Warcraft because it kind of made me realize that there was this possibility for me to pursue this career.
That's very cool. That's a beautiful story. I appreciate you sharing that.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I think it's a bit cheesy sometimes, maybe a little, like I don't know, a little sob story, but
No, it's just very nice to hear. Like you wanted to, like, yeah, and choosing your future that would make you happy, and choosing something specifically that would bring you joy. That is something that I don't know. I have to remind myself multiple times because I'm not doing exactly what I want, but I'm still working towards that. And you have to remind yourself every now and again. And so it's nice to hear that other people on similar paths or just like paths kind of in the same direction looking for joy. And I appreciate that.
yeah, and I hope that you find it too in the things that you're pursuing. I think it feels so nice once you're able to like, wow, I think it happened. Like the thing I was chasing after for so many years, like it's now there. And even though I don't play World of Warcraft anymore, I feel like I still like owe a lot to it because like when it kind of gave me like a place to be throughout high school, that I could interact with my friend from Japan, but also like when things got tough, I could spend time in there, and also like allowed me to see the possibility of like this career. So
Yeah. I mean, it did a lot then.
yeah.
That's good. It's good to hear. Well, it's very cool. So you've reached. So you're feeling like you're at your goal or kind of around where you want it to be.
Yeah, I feel really happy with where I'm at in life, and I think just like goals that I have for myself is just to like keep improving, keep developing my art skills to make even more immersive environment art. But I feel like it's kind of a goal that you're never really gonna reach because you still want to like every day you want to get better at your craft. But I feel like that's kind of good because every day I push myself further along, but I also try and be thankful for all of the growth. And I think that's something that a lot of artists like they even though like I've met some amazing artists, they're so talented, way more than me, and they're still like unhappy with where they are with their skill level. And it's like in a way you have to like I don't know, just be your own cheerleader and say like, no, I am good at art. Like I might still be getting better at it, but it's okay to like say that you like your own stuff.
Definitely. I definitely fully agree with that statement. I do comedy, and if I don't make myself laugh, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I'm always laughing. It's fun. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, then I don't know, change your perspective a bit, or just try and take a step back and look at what you're doing and appreciate all the hard work you put into it.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's like a thin line between like liking your own stuff and like coming across as cocky, but I always encourage people it's better to be even slightly too cocky than not be proud of yourself.
Yes. Agreed. Take that as you will, listeners, but we agree on that. But that pretty much wraps up our conversation. Do you got anything to promote?
So at Singularity 6, we're working on an awesome game that I unfortunately can't talk about very much right now, but I believe in March we are looking to release a trailer, and we'll be able to finally then talk about it. And I'm really excited because I think it's a game that it looks beautiful, and the gameplay of it is also super enjoyable. But
It looks beautiful if you do say so yourself as the environment artist.
Yeah, the team on it is so talented, and I'm really proud of everyone. And sorry, I can't talk too much more about it, but hopefully you folks will enjoy.
That's all right. That's a good tease. Everyone keep an eye out for Singularity 6 to see what they're bringing in March, April. Looking forward to that trailer. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I have no idea, and I'm curious, and I'm excited to see all those environments you put together.
Yeah. The only thing that I could say that, I don't think is a spoiler, if you look at the artists that have been hired by Singularity 6 and what art style they work in, you can kind of maybe guess what the game would look like,
There we go. Everyone can do their own work to figure out what the game's going to look like, and then see how correct you are when the trailer comes out.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all those stories. I appreciate your time and those stories and you being so open and honest. And yeah, it was great.
Thank you so much for having me. It was amazing to spend this time talking with you. You're great. And yeah, I love your work.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to the Personal History of Games. We'll catch you next week. You can hear more of the Personal History of Games on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. If you enjoyed this episode and want to help us out, please leave us a rating and review. For updates, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at PHOGPod, or check out our website at personalhog.com. The show is hosted and produced by Eric Canius, executive produced by Robin Lands. Do We Like is brought to you by Beamed Media, a Canadian podcast network.